right, welcome to an exclusive interview with the Runner Washington. Today we have Anthony Smith, the fastest man in Washington this season in the 100 and 200 from Eastside Catholic High School. He joins us here. He'll be heading to the University of Washington this fall to be sprinting for the Huskies for the next 4 seasons. And Anthony, it's an honor to have you on here and just chat with you about this incredible season you had. Take me through the senior season and what it was like sprinting in a COVID pandemic.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. It was kind of crazy this year since we didn't really have a full season, I guess. There was no state, no districts, kind of just the league championship meets. Running on pretty much my own through the whole year and training and just having like minimal opportunities and trying to grasp at anything I could to run some races. And running through COVID this year was I think it was honestly a bit more difficult than last year's summer, like 2020 summer, because there was a little bit less competition there and a little bit less of a training aspect during the Eastside Catholic high school season. So it kind of made it a bit harder through the end of the year.
So last spring, you had the chance, and it was probably your latest competition race that you ran in Desert Dream Last Hurrah. You ran against Gavin Sure, one of the top nut sprinters, also in the entire country, who's going to be running for USC. What was that opportunity like to go down to Arizona and run that race?
It was really fun. He actually told me about it like a week before the race happened and asked if I could come and run with him. So it was a bit crazy in the lead up to it since I wasn't expecting to run a race that early, but I had the opportunity and like took it because it was the first race that I could do last year. So, and with it was great competition as well. And it was pretty widely broadcasted and like, I guess it developed into a bigger thing than it like was supposed to. And it was mainly also a distance race, but with me and Gavin there, it was a pretty good competition throughout the 100, 200, and 400.
Well, he got you in the 100 and 200, but you got him back in the 400. But this year, man, I mean, 10.36, 21.14, and then a 49.2, which is a season best for you. But the 100 and 200 stand out to me the most because, one, you were trying to chase after the all-time great Washington high school state sprinter, Jawan Hooker. What were the goals this season? Obviously, get those records, but like just try to progress, obviously knowing you are going to be running for the University of Washington this fall.
I'm For me, it was more of just trying to get better for next year, since once I signed, it was more of my focus to get prepared for my competition next year, since I have to step up to the college level, which obviously has way better competition than high school with like people running nines in some cases or 19s. So I have to get a lot of training in order to get up to that level still. And I'm trying to prepare myself to be able to run like with them or just even make like top 8 at conference or NCAA West regionals. And that was kind of my goal this year, outside of also trying to break the state records on top of that.
And of course, you didn't necessarily have the competition like you did this year, but I mean, it was still a successful senior season. So for you, you know that you're going to the collegiate ranks, and the only way to get better is to just keep doing the training and all that stuff. But at the same time, you didn't really have that competition this spring. So what was that mentally for you like this year?
Um, I guess it was more just trying to like create competition, and there was still some like people who are faster than me out the blocks. So I had some like people to push me there for like the first 30. And for me, it was more about just like, yeah, making that a competition and making it almost like I thought of it as almost like a race between me and Jawarin almost, and trying to like compete there and then also compete with myself and have that competition of trying to run PRs and run as fast or as like efficiently as I possibly can every week and just
You know,
improve.
Dwar Hooker messaged me a couple weeks ago saying that of all the guys to break my record, I want this kid specifically to beat my records. What was that feeling like just to kind of hear that from an athlete who has been so successful like him?
Oh, it's a great feeling. He's told me that many times since I've talked to him on the phone as well, a few times, and I really like him as well. It's just like a really good feeling to talk to him.
Well, sure. And look who's going to be joining us here right now is the man himself, the all-time great sprinter in the state of Washington, Jawan Hooker joins us. Jawan, first of all, thank you for coming on here. First, tell us what you've seen about from this kid and what he's done. I mean, just looking at the times and how impressed you are with him.
What's up, Anthony? How you doing, buddy?
Hey, how are you? I'm doing
I'm
pretty
good,
good.
man. That's good to hear. I guess first of all, Keenan, thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate that. Gosh, I've been following Anthony now, pretty much just over this year. I mean, I've heard tidbits about him over the last couple years, and then obviously when he signed to go to the University of Washington, I heard a little bit more about him. So I kind of wanted to, check this kid out, figure out, who he was, and as he started running these fast times, especially this more so this year, I really got an opportunity to, talk to some of the coaches about him too. I mean, the great thing about Anthony is obviously he's a tremendous talent, but I think more importantly with Anthony is that A, he's a student of the sport. B, he studies it like nobody else that I've seen, probably more so than anybody that I've ever seen. And I was just really excited and encouraged that if those records are going to be broken, it's going to be broken of a person of not just his caliber as an athlete, but his caliber as a person. So.
And of course, you both have had great, successful careers. Obviously, Jordan, you are the fastest man to ever come out of the state of Washington. Anthony, you're second or third behind this guy. When you chose the University of Washington, what was that process like for you? And when you were thinking, it's like, wow, Jawan Hooker, national champion from the University of Washington, maybe potentially that could be me in the near future. What was this led to your decision?
Um,
Um,
oh, you're talking. Oh, I thought it was for me. Go ahead,
is it
Anthony.
for him or me?
Go ahead,
Wait.
Anthony.
Okay. Um, well, I kind of just always wanted to go to UW myself. I've always lived in the Seattle area, always like followed the Huskies in all sports. I couldn't really see myself going anywhere else or running for anyone else. And it kind of just felt like home to me, and I wanted to go here. And then looking at like times run by athletes, there's always like I always feel like there's a thing about like UW doesn't produce sprint athletes, but that's like not true. If you look at like the times that have been produced overall as like in school history, there's just like some really good runners and really good times that are there. Like Jordan's been there. There's been a few other people that have run really fast, and I would like to also be part of that list and like break records at UW and also be able to run fast and hit like maybe national championship as well, just like Jordan did.
Warren, what do you remember most about your time at the University of Washington, whether it was winning a national championship in both like the 60s or just outdoors national titles, but just think of the fondest memories you had while you were in Seattle.
Gosh, fondest memories. I think they change once you get out of school and you become an adult, right? Because at the time they're not necessarily fond memories, but I think probably one of the fondest memories was when I lost the race. I didn't lose a. First of all, I think my freshman year in high school was the last time I lost a race, and it was at state. And then whether it was all through high school, Golden West, U.S. Nationals, goodness, Pan American Games, I didn't lose. And after I won the national title my freshman indoor season, I actually lost my outdoor season. I lost to a guy named Leonard Miles Mills. He was BYU and went on to do big things, but I lost by 1/100th of a second. And at that time, I didn't really know what it felt like to lose because I haven't lost in 5 years. So thinking about it, removed. I'm 42 years old now. That was one of the fondest memories because some of the things that I did after I lost, I didn't like it. Right, I was a poor sportsman. Didn't pick up the award. I felt like second place was not an award that I wanted to pick up. And along the way now, that race actually taught me just a lot about life, about just like, if you do lose, if you don't perform well, just pick yourself back up and get going. So I would say that's my fondest memory. And most times, most people won't say that losing a race or having a bad performance is a fond memory. But winning was always pretty easy for me. But that losing hurt, and I actually won and gained a lot of just introspective information about myself because of it.
Well, and like you said, you won so many times in high school. When you go to the collegiate ranks, you think you're going to be able to win these many races, but you're going against guys that are stronger and faster than you. So mentally, you learned a lot from that race in itself. And how did that carry on for the rest of your career?
I guess first of all, Keenan, I've always been a very my mental fortitude's always been pretty sharp. I've always thought and convinced myself that I was ready and able to beat anybody. So that's never been the case. But I will say there's this thing called fear that most people deal with, and fear is you're only fearful because you have expectations. So I've always had high expectations for myself. But after I've lost that race, I really examined that word and that feeling that I was feeling, and made sure that it didn't come a regular occurrence for me. And so I think that it just changed the way that I approached some of the races. I didn't want to have that type of feeling anymore, or so I went into each race with the same expectations, but not the same response to the loss.
Any piece of advice for Anthony going into what's a really good program? Obviously, Joshua Anderson, who knows a ton about the sport, was a national champion at WSU in the 400 hurdles, which is ironic that he was a Coug and now he's a Husky. So that's cool in itself right there that he decided to switch sides right there. But give us a little piece of information that you brought in from high school into college that you learned so much that made you grow as an athlete.
First of all, Joshua is an amazing coach. And I talked to Anthony probably a week ago, and very encouraged that he's going to be working with Joshua. I mean, that guy's been there, done that at the highest level. Hell, he probably could still get out there and run the hurdles and actually make the team. So, no, he's phenomenal. The one piece of advice I would give, and I see a lot of kids, especially of Anthony's caliber, that are fast already, and then they go to a different place, a different coach, is to trust the process. Right. First of all, collegiate track and field is completely different than high school. Whether it's the expectations, the races, the training, but trust the process and believe in your training. I think that as soon as people stop believing in their training, no matter how good or bad their training is, they might as well just quit, because if track is such a mental thing. If you're not going into this thing with complete confidence in every single detail of what you're doing, you're not going to come out on top. So that's the one thing that I would say more so than anything is just trust the process and know that you're in great hands. I know that his dad's been working with him tremendously, and he has a coach as well that he's been working with outside. And Joshua is such a good dude. I'm sure that he's going to want to collaborate and really figure out what's been working really well for Anthony, and then Josh is going to come up with his own program. So I'm just excited to watch the kid. 1018 better get broken. 2018 better fall down. 4478, that's going to be a tough one. So I'm really excited to just watch him go and do amazing things at UW. So.
Hey, it is Olympic trial week, I guess, now coming up. You yourself have participated in this event, and you got to be a part of the 4x4 or 4x1 as an alternate.
4x4.
4x4 in 2000, and I believe that was is that Sydney, Australia, that the Olympics were at?
Yeah.
What was that like, just being part of a team, even though necessarily you didn't get to compete, but you get to call yourself an Olympian?
Yeah, gosh, man, so many people don't know this story, so I'll make it brief as possible. Track is a very political sport, and I made the team, went to Sydney. Get there. We had 500-meter time trials. Everyone ran except for Michael Johnson at the time. And coach wanted us to, run certain times or whatever. I ended up running the second fastest 500. I think I ran 58, 50. Alvin Harrison ran 58:40. So after that, I was running the first leg of the relay. the morning of the race, first of all, my town of Ellensburg sent my family all the way down to Sydney. The morning of the race, coach came to my room. His name was Bubba Thornton. Came to my room and he said, "Did you see Angelo Taylor run last night?" Angelo Taylor won the hurdles out of lane 1 that year. I think he ran 47:50. And I said, "Yeah, I saw him." He goes, "Yeah, he ran amazing, and he's going to run your leg." And I'm like, "What?" And this is 10 o'clock in the morning. We raced at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and he's like, "Yeah, I just feel like he has more experience, and you're gonna be back to several Olympics, so like you're young and you'll be back." And I'll tell you, like, so what my experience was like at the time was sheer devastation. I put a lot of time and effort, a lot of miles on my body. I did whatever I was supposed to do in order to be in that position. Ran the second fastest time trial, and not being able to run on that relay that day, that stung. I guess flipping back now or going forward 20 years later, um, still Olympian. Unfortunately, our team won the gold medal that year, but we had 2 or 3 guys test positive, so we had to give the medal back anyways. When you think about it now, I'm glad that my name wasn't put on that because there's some tarnish there. So experience wasn't the best at the time. But looking back now, amazing experience in Sydney. It's the pinnacle of the sport. This is what we work for. Track doesn't come around every 4 years. It comes around every single year. We have a yearly season, and I very much hope so, that I can see another University of Washington sprinter representing, the sprint crew, representing the school at an Olympics soon.
Well, this kid is an extraordinary athlete. Anthony, I don't even know if Jawan, you know this. He used to run cross country when he was in middle school. Before he was even a sprinter, he was a middle distance runner.
I don't think that's awesome. I think that's crazy. So,
like, no, honestly, Anthony, talk a little bit about your time running the distance races a little bit before you converted over to sprints.
Well, I was more, I always had been like a distance runner since I was a kid. I originally started running doing 5Ks and stuff like that, and I was more of a soccer player, so I was more endurance based, you could say. So running those races, and I made a few nationals, USATF Junior Olympics in cross country and like 1500s and 800s. So I was not bad at distance, but I'd say it was like it set a good base for me for like, especially in 400s, stuff like that, for just like that endurance that I gained and experience I gained also from distance that I can use in sprinting. Obviously, I am a bit like almost set back in terms of time of me being able to sprint, and like form wise too, because distance isn't very form based. So having to learn all that in like a short span of like 4 years now, I think, is pretty difficult. But I'm excited at where I am since I started sprinting. But yeah, distance was the training was a bit crazy for that, and then switching over.
Well, who would have thought you, as someone who started off as a distance runner, become this fast either? Obviously, the endurance piece has helped you out tremendously in that 400. And a lot of people think it's mostly just like as fast as you can, but really it's that endurance piece that carries you in that race, whether it is even the 800 or 400, because I'm assuming at some point you're probably going to run the 800 while you're at Washington potentially, but mostly you're going to be focused on those short sprints and this the middle of the pack 400 type sprints. So, last thing before I let you both go, Anthony, you're leaving a really good program from Eastside Catholic and then joining yet another great program. What's the one thing you want people to remember you about from Eastside Catholic High School?
I don't know. I guess just like my competitiveness at EC and just what I left for the team, and like my teamwork with everybody else, kind of just like helping others succeed at their own stuff while I also succeeded at my, and just kind of just how I performed in my high school stuff, like given all the circumstances as well.
Well, man, you've accomplished so much in your short, I guess, career, even though it has been 4 years. And you probably would have won a couple of state championships last year and, of course, this year. But bigger and better things are on the way, man. You're going to be running for the University of Washington. You get to be going to your school that you grew up watching and wanting to go to your entire life, which is awesome and cool. And they're lucky to have you. Jesuit Anderson is lucky to have you. You're a great individual. And I'm sure I'm saying all the words that Juwan would be also saying as well, because we're excited for you, what you can do in the near future. So, Anthony, I appreciate your time coming on here. Juwan, I really appreciate your time coming on here and chatting with a little bit about your experience as well. Best of luck, Anthony, and thanks again, Juwan.
I appreciate you having me, man. Yeah, I'm sure Anthony and I will be talking all the time. So, but Keenan, I appreciate you having me, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me as well.